I hadn't been back to Maple Hollow in almost 6 years. The air was colder than I remembered, sharp enough to sting my cheeks as I pulled my suitcase through the thin layer of snow that covered Grandma's front porch. The same white Christmas lights she used to hang with so much pride still dangled from the eaves. Only now, half of them had gone dark. I exhaled slowly, watching my breath fade into the silence. No Christmas music. No smell of cinnamon bread. No sound of her humming while stirring something on the stove. Just stillness. My boots left small, wet prints across the wooden floor as I stepped inside. The air felt heavy, untouched. Dishes sat on the counter, half-rinsed. A cup of tea had long gone cold beside the sink. The clock on the wall ticked too loudly. "Grandma?" My voice cracked a little, echoing down the hallway. Nothing. The living room looked almost the same. Crocheted blankets, faded photos, the rocking chair by the window. But the space felt hollow. My chest tightened as I set my purse down on the couch. I noticed a folded piece of paper on the dining table, tucked beneath a salt shaker like it had been waiting for me. My fingers trembled as I reached for it. The edges were soft, smudged, as if touched too many times. And that's when the scent hit me. Stale soup, untouched bread. My stomach dropped. Grandma hadn't eaten in days. I unfolded the note, my heart pounding loud enough to drown the silence. "My sweet Emma," it began. I could almost hear her voice as I read those first 3 words. Gentle, deliberate, the way she always said my name like a prayer. My sweet Emma. And suddenly, I was 22 again, standing in that same kitchen with snow melting off my boots, my suitcase by the door, and my heart breaking in silence. Grandma had been stirring something on the stove that day, refusing to look at me. The smell of tomato soup filled the room, her comfort food, my goodbye meal. "You don't have to go chasing the world, honey," she'd said, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly. "There's a difference between running and flying." I remember gripping the handle of my suitcase tighter. "I'm not running, Grandma. I need to do something with my life. I can't stay in Maple Hollow forever." She turned then, eyes soft, but tired. "And what's wrong with Maple Hollow? What's wrong with being somewhere people know your name, where you matter?" I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, I didn't feel like I mattered. Not here. Not in this quiet town that measured success by who married whom or who baked the best pie at the fair. "I want more," I whispered. "I want to be someone." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You already are someone, Emma." That should have been enough. But it wasn't. When I finally reached for the door, she followed me, holding something in her hand, a small silver locket, tarnished around the edges. She placed it in my palm and closed my fingers around it. "It was your mother's," she said softly. "Keep it close. It'll remind you who feeds your soul when the world tries to starve it." I wanted to thank her. I wanted to say I loved her. But pride, stubborn, stupid pride, sat heavy in my throat. So I just nodded and left, the screen door creaking shut behind me. I didn't look back. For years, that moment played in my mind like a film reel I couldn't pause. Her eyes, her trembling smile, the way the light hit the dust floating in the air. And now, standing in that same house, holding her note, I realized how long I'd been running, not from Maple Hollow, but from her love. Leaving Maple Hollow had felt like stepping off a cliff with nothing but blind faith beneath me. The bus ride to New York was a blur of city lights and promises I didn't yet know how to keep. I remember pressing the silver locket against my chest, whispering to myself, "You're doing the right thing." But even then, I wasn't sure. The first year was brutal. I slept on a pull-out couch in a 1-bedroom apartment I shared with 2 other girls, waitress double shifts, and chased design internships that paid in experience. My dreams of becoming an interior designer felt naive next to the reality of overdue rent and rejection emails. There were nights I'd come home after midnight, feet aching, mascara smudged, and open Grandma's locket just to remind myself that love still existed somewhere in the world. Inside was a tiny photo of her holding me as a baby, smiling, proud. That image kept me alive when nothing else did. Then came my first break, a small firm in Brooklyn that hired me as an assistant. My boss, Dana Whitmore, was the kind of woman who didn't apologize for her success. She wore tailored suits, red lipstick, and confidence like perfume. She saw something in me others didn't. "You've got an eye for space, kid," she said one evening after I'd redesigned a client's living room on my own time. "Don't waste it playing small." Dana became more than a mentor. She became proof that women could build empires and still lead with grace. Under her guidance, I learned everything: the business side, the art, the politics of making people feel seen through design. Within 3 years, I had my own clients. Within 5, my own studio, Emma Claire Interiors. I specialized in restoring old homes, breathing life into places others thought were beyond saving. Maybe that's why it worked, because deep down, I was always trying to restore something inside myself, too. On social media, I kept things modest. A few snapshots of flowers on a desk, a cozy corner, a coffee cup by the window. I never shared the penthouse view, the designer heels, or the magazine features. Success didn't feel like something I wanted to brag about. Not when Grandma still lived alone in that old house, probably still believing I'd forgotten her. Every Christmas, I'd think about going home. I'd even book the flight once or twice, only to cancel before boarding. I told myself I was too busy, that she probably didn't want to see me. But the truth? I was scared. Scared she'd look at me and see a stranger. The locket stayed with me through it all, through client meetings, heartbreaks, and every lonely night when the city lights couldn't quite fill the silence. I'd rub my thumb over its surface, whispering, "One day, I'll make it right." And that day had finally come. As I stood in Grandma's house, surrounded by the ghosts of everything I'd left behind, I knew this visit wasn't just a reunion. It was reckoning time. The paper in my hand trembled as I kept reading Grandma's note. Her handwriting was shaky, the kind that came from age and too many winters. "If you're reading this, sweetheart, I guess you finally made it home. Don't be sad for me. The world gets quiet when you're old. I just didn't expect it to get this quiet." Tears blurred the ink. My throat tightened until it hurt. I looked around, the faded floral wallpaper, the rocking chair that never stopped creaking, the empty teacup beside her Bible. Every inch of the room screamed of time passing without me. Then I heard a soft sound from the bedroom, a cough. "Grandma?" The sound came again, weak but real. I rushed down the hall, my heart pounding against my ribs. She was there, half sitting against her pillow, pale as linen but alive. Her eyes fluttered open when I touched her hand. "Emma," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. I sank to my knees beside the bed. "Yeah, Grandma. It's me. I'm here." She reached up, fingers brushing my cheek like she needed to make sure I was real. "You came home. I should have come sooner." My voice broke. I didn't know you were alone like this." Her eyes filled, the corners softening into a faint smile. "You were busy living, baby. That's what I wanted for you." I shook my head. "No. You wanted me to stay. And I left anyway." She gave a fragile laugh, the kind that turned into a cough halfway through. "And look at you now. All grown up. You look like your mama, confident, stubborn, too proud for your own good." I smiled through my tears. "You were right about that last part." Her gaze wandered to the hallway. "I didn't want you to see me like this. That's why I didn't call. The fridge stopped working last week, and I didn't have the energy to fix it. I didn't want to bother you." Something inside me cracked open. I glanced toward the kitchen, where half-empty cans and wilted lettuce sat in silence. "You're never a bother, Grandma. You're the reason I made it. Everything I have, it started with you." She blinked slowly, trying to focus. "What do you mean?" I took her hand in both of mine, squeezing it gently. "Do you remember that old locket you gave me before I left?" She nodded faintly. "I kept it," I said, pulling the silver chain from under my blouse. "Every single day. And I built a business, Grandma. I'm not just getting by anymore. I own my own studio in New York. People know my name now, not because I left you behind, but because you taught me how to love beauty and make things whole again." Her eyes widened, shimmering with disbelief. "You did all that?" I smiled.
Yeah.
And I named my first collection after you, the Evelyn line. For a moment, she said nothing. Then her frail hand reached up and rested over my heart. My smart girl, she whispered. I always knew you'd fly. The tears I'd been holding back finally fell. I laughed and sobbed all at once, pressing my forehead to hers. I'm not flying anymore, Grandma. I'm home. And I'm never letting you go hungry again. The silence between us softened, not empty this time, but peaceful. The house didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt alive again. She smiled faintly. Then you'd better start making that tomato soup. It's Christmas, after all. I laughed, wiping my cheeks with the back of my hand. Yes, ma'am. As I turned toward the kitchen, I felt something shift inside me, the weight of guilt lifting, replaced by something fierce and tender.
Love.
Redemption. For the first time in years, I wasn't the girl who left. I was the woman who came home. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the thin lace curtains, turning the bedroom gold. Grandma was still sleeping when I tiptoed in with a tray, warm oatmeal, fresh berries, and the kind of coffee she always called city fancy. When her eyes fluttered open, I grinned. Breakfast in bed, Mrs. Evelyn Clare. She laughed softly, the sound raspy but alive. You didn't have to fuss, honey. Yes, I did, I said, setting the tray on her lap. We're doing things differently now. Over the next few days, I cleaned every inch of the house, scrubbed the counters, restocked the fridge, fixed the broken heater. Each repair felt symbolic, like I was piecing together both the home and our history. I hired a nurse to check on her twice a week, and I told her about my plan, a complete renovation of the old house, but this time, with her name on the deed. Her eyes widened. Emma, you can't. I can, I interrupted gently. And I will. I sat beside her, hands clasped around hers. You took care of me when I had nothing. Now it's my turn. But there's a condition. She raised an eyebrow. A condition? Yes. I smiled. You're not allowed to pretend you don't need help anymore. No more skipping meals. No more hiding letters under salt shakers. You tell me when you need something, anything. Deal? Her lip trembled, and she nodded.
Deal.
The next call I made was to my uncle and cousins, the same family who hadn't checked on Grandma in months. When they arrived a week later, they were polite but uneasy, clearly expecting confrontation. I greeted them with warmth, but there was no mistaking who held the power now. The woman they'd once dismissed as a dreamer who'd never make it stood in a tailored coat, directing contractors, signing checks, and commanding the room with quiet authority. At dinner, I spoke plainly. Grandma's staying here, but things are changing. If any of you want to be part of her life again, it comes with responsibilities, not pity. I expect weekly visits, phone calls, and real help. If not, I'll handle it all myself. There was silence, uncomfortable but necessary. Then my cousin Sarah spoke first. You're right. We should have done more. I looked at her, softening. Then start now. One by one, they nodded. It wasn't about control, it was about restoring balance. The same way I designed spaces, I was redesigning my family, less clutter, more honesty. That night, Grandma sat beside the fireplace, watching the flames dance. You sound just like Dana, she said. I smiled. Who's Dana? She was my boss, my mentor. She taught me how to build things that last. Grandma reached for my hand. Seems she did a fine job. And for the first time in years, I felt the peace that comes from reclaiming not just success, but belonging. 2 weeks later, the house didn't just look different. It felt different. The scent of pine and cinnamon filled the air again, the kind that made memories curl around your heart. Contractors had come and gone, leaving behind soft cream walls, polished oak floors, and a kitchen that finally breathed warmth again. Grandma sat by the window in her favorite rocking chair, the one I'd had reupholstered in a soft blue fabric that matched her eyes. Outside, the first snow of the new year drifted down in quiet flakes. She hummed while flipping through an old photo album, the corners of her lips lifting every now and then. I stood in the doorway, a cup of cocoa in hand, just watching her. For the first time in years, I wasn't rushing anywhere. No deadlines. No clients. No pretending. When she noticed me, she smiled. "You look content, baby." "I am," I said softly. "I think I finally figured out what home feels like." She nodded, eyes glinting. "It's not walls and windows, Emma. It's love that stays." I walked over, kneeling beside her chair. "I know that now." On her lap rested the silver locket, polished, shining again. She opened it, running her thumb over the tiny picture inside. "You've carried this through everything?" "Every step," I said. "It reminded me of who I was, even when I didn't want to remember." She smiled, slipping the chain back into my hand. "Then keep it. But now wear it because you want to, not because you need to." The words settled deep in me, warm and steady. For so long, I'd built my life trying to prove something, to her, to myself, to the world. But here, in this quiet house, surrounded by the echoes of forgiveness, I finally understood that success didn't mean leaving. Sometimes it meant coming back. I stood and looked around, the Christmas tree twinkling softly in the corner, the table set for two, the faint smell of tomato soup simmering on the stove. The house wasn't empty anymore. Neither was I. As Grandma dozed off, I stepped outside for a moment, breathing in the crisp evening air. The snow fell gently against my skin, melting instantly, fleeting, but real. I looked up at the stars and whispered, "I made it home, Grandma. Really home." And for the first time since I left Maple Hollow, I believed it. Sometimes coming home isn't about where you live. It's about forgiving yourself for leaving. Bottom of form.